The blend that works, from coffee culture to Golden State. All right, we're going to try this again because I kind of messed up. Actually, no, I really messed up recording with Jared Truby. He's one of the founders of Cat and Cloud Coffee in Santa Cruz, California. And man, we had such a great conversation. And I just couldn't let it disappear into the audio mistakes that I made. So here's the next best thing. You're going to get the story, the flavor, the lessons that I drew from our conversation, everything we talked about, coffee, culture, and basketball, retold as best I can. Part 1, the cup that started it all. I just got off the phone with Jared, and he was talking about Rosalio Martinez, their Guatemalan producer, whose coffee had the perfect mix of sweet berries, creamy chocolate, and black tea finish. He was proud of it, but more than that, it reminded me why I love talking to people who love what they do. Jared's also always been about coffee and about the relationships that they foster in their cafes, at their roastery, and with the producers of the coffee. And that's something that I've really enjoyed about learning about the industry, something that I love that gives me a way to travel the world, even though I don't travel as much as I used to. It just is a fun way to learn about different parts of the world, and I love starting our conversation there. Jared's been in coffee for 9 years now at Cat and Cloud. He even said that he tastes every coffee that they roast every single week. Think about that. He's the owner and the co-founder. He still cups everything weekly, and not just the coffee, but everybody's tasting it. It's the way he stays alive in the craft. It's how he stays curious. And one of the things that we hit on is this new world that's come around, the co-ferments and the way that they're shocking the coffee cherries. And they've got one coming out that I'm definitely going to check out. He called it the pink champagne co-ferment. Experimental, sparkly, aromatic. It's definitely a trend that's popped up, and it's something to watch. If you enjoy the really almost shocking flavor that you can get from certain coffees, it's certainly something that I would encourage someone to put on order. And we talked a little bit in that vein about trying to stay away from just chasing trends. While you always want to see what's out there so you don't miss the next evolution, you also don't want to be too far off on the edge, because I think that it can alienate people, and they've always been about bringing people into the specialty coffee space, and I love that. And that's basketball too. Part 2, we talked about staying ahead of the curve. In the NBA, trends decide who survives. Scoring is up. We are scoring more right now than at any time since the 1960s. Think about that. That is 50, 60 years ago. And the game didn't even have a three-point line then. So it was played completely differently. There are multiple pieces of this that are very interesting. The Warriors years ago were the trend. And I really hit on this idea before the season started of two teams, one in the East, one in the West, that are interesting bellwethers. They're not the best teams, because I think sometimes the best teams have such a mixture of talent and such a specific identity that they can buck any trend. For example, the Oklahoma City Thunder aren't a great shooting team, which would seem weird in this day and age, but they have this transcendent star, and their defense is absolutely unbelievable. So the two teams I had the idea on were the Warriors and Philadelphia. They're more in the middle and could swing either way. You've got two young guys that are leading Philadelphia and buoyed by the older guys. And on the opposite end, you've got the Warriors, who are still led by this older transcendent star in Steph Curry, buoyed by some of the younger guys, but they're still trying to find something for them. When they started, though, they clearly broke open this new era with shooting, spacing, and they took what Steve Nash and the Phoenix Suns started and turned it from an idea into a movement. And then everybody copied them, of course, right? Three-point revolution, pace and space, positionless lineups. You could call Steph Curry a point guard, but he really does the point guard thing, aka sets up other people by drawing the defense to him rather than with the ball in his hands always distributing to other people. It's a very different way to do it, but has somewhat the same effect. But like Jared said about coffee, once the rest of the world catches up to you, you can either evolve again or fade into nostalgia. You don't want to be the last coffee shop still clinging to the same roast while everyone else has changed their palates. And you don't want to be the last team living off the mid-range and twos when everyone else is playing chess at 27 feet. Part 3, we talked about Big Face Coffee, Jimmy Butler, and the San Francisco pop-up. They went and checked out Big Face Coffee in San Francisco. Jimmy Butler did this really cool pop-up shop as a part of his larger brand. He's got a standalone shop in Miami where he was before he moved to Golden State. But obviously this guy is crazy about the coffee culture. And Jared went to the pop-up in San Francisco. It was a limited run shop. It was tucked into this old delicatessen on Valencia Street. He was super interested in just how they set it up. It was definitely Instagram first, service second, but loved the touches. They had that Big Face branded olive oil sandwiches and the storytelling baked into that space. So just not about coffee, but about the brand and about creating a soul with that brand. And that's so Jimmy Butler. Like, that's what I loved about what he was saying. Because Jimmy Butler starts this in the bubble as an idea, charging $20 a cup, not because he had to, but because he believed that the experience that he was delivering was worth it. And it's, he can do that because he's got that other income, but it also sometimes takes people taking a big chance. He certainly could have been laughed out of the room or people thought he was ridiculous, but he stuck to it and has actually developed into a real coffee identity. Now that he's a Warrior and literally on the roster, he is blending in with them into something that is already legendary. And it's clear that he fit from the beginning. He didn't come in to take over. He came in to be a piece, and he even has his new shoes out, the JB4s. And Steph has worn the Batman version, and he's worn the Robin version. And for a guy that has been an alpha his entire career, it shows an understanding of how transcendent Steph Curry is. And it shows how much he wants to win. He's always been about winning. While he has had a tumultuous exit to some of the places that he's been at, when he's got there, he's always been about winning and will contribute to that, at least at the start. Part 4 was culture and comfort. One of the things I've always loved about both Cat and Cloud and the Warriors is identity, a sense of who they are and a willingness to keep working on it. Cat and Cloud has this belief system that's evolved over time. They care about people, they serve them well, they build their culture intentionally. When you taste their coffee, you can taste that consistency. There is something comforting in it. And they also then push the boundaries for those who are interested in that too. And the Warriors, same deal. Steph Curry is the embodiment of comfort and that bleeding edge, the awe that comes in with it. You know exactly what he's going to do, and somehow still he pushes the boundaries and blows your mind every time he does it, just a little bit differently. That's culture. It's routine turned into art, predictability made magical. And the scary thing, that kind of culture can break fast when the alignment slips. We joked about that with the Draymond Jordan Poole moment. And that was a crack that reminded us that culture isn't permanent. It's maintained every single day. Part 5, we talked about growth and the young core. We pivoted to talking about the young guys, which in the time between us talking and me finally getting around to recording my thoughts on this, Jonathan Kuminga has really slipped once again. He had that brief moment where I was like, well, maybe he really is going to figure out. And now it feels like they're just waiting till one day after he's eligible to be traded to get him out of there. He just never has been the right fit for their system, for the culture. He's a little bit too me first. He's a little bit too much of a need the ball in his hands guy for a team that's predicated on passing and movement. And you could tell that one of the things I enjoyed about this was that even though Jared's a real fan of the Warriors, he's also a realist. He talked about the raw power he saw in Kuminga, but also he recognized the impatience, the desire to be something more before he was ready, before he had fully, his skills had fully caught up with his talent. And he even talked about what he sees sometimes in coffee apprentices, baristas who can't wait to innovate, but haven't yet mastered the fundamentals. You need that spark, that belief in yourself, but you also need the humility to know when you're still learning the grind, when you still need to fit in before you fit out, to borrow LeBron's saying. And that's such a Warrior thing. Steph had to grow into his leadership. Draymond had to learn when to bark, when to breathe. Sometimes he still doesn't know. Kuminga's just the next in that lineage, but I'm not sure he's ever gonna get there at this point. Part 7, we talked about the Western canvas. We zoomed out and talked about the whole Western Conference. Of course, Nikola Jokic came up, and we geeked out on his passing. I saw the stat this week, and hopefully everyone else saw this. He's the first player ever, not Wilt, not Jordan, nobody, to lead for a decade in the 4 major statistical categories: scoring, rebounding, assists. Just he is a wild player. Like, to be the shape that he is and look the way he does and to dominate the way he does is just absolutely incredible. And we both got onto his passing then more specifically and missed some of that across the league. There is a consistency with which everyone moves the ball, but there is this hyper focus, which is important when you're going to have the scoring that we have, but there's a hyper focus on efficiency. So some of the exciting passing, which could also be characterized as careless, that Jason Williams brought to the league, maybe has drifted a little bit because those are more turnover prone as well. And Jokic somehow is still able to do that and be efficient. It's just different. He is definitely, again, gravitational, a conductor, and has the ability to play point guard at the center position because of the way he brings people to him and moves the ball. Unfortunately, in the time between that, we also had Wembanyama get injured, but we certainly enjoyed talking about him and the otherworldly start that he had. Definitely something that we were speculating about, like, how do you stop this guy? Jared had a pretty sharp take at this. He felt that teams haven't had the time or incentive quite yet to figure him out because he's been in and out so much, currently out again, but thinks that it'll come, that it always has. But right now he's in a pure kind of creative space that he just gets to do what he wants. And related it back to business too, that every great idea has that brief, glorious window before imitation dulls it or catches up with it. But that's the moment that you have to maximize. And that's what I hope, that Wembanyama comes back healthy and is able to have a fantastic season, because inevitably people will try to scheme against him more. I worry that guys that big just don't last very long. So just the opportunity to see him out there to make a run at it, I think would be incredible. So where does Golden State actually stand? Jared's take was number 3 in the West. Whew. I pushed hard on that. Of course, I've got a little more time on my belt, but my argument was too old, too fragile, too many unknowns. But they had gone at that time 27-8 since Butler's trade. So there's something, if they can peak again and be healthy at the right time, they certainly could at least make another upset in the playoffs. They're definitely a good basketball team, but not the dynasty or dynastic like they were. Something humbler, more human. They can still win if the breaks fall right, but definitely older, and they're going to need health and chemistry, luck to sprinkle in there to really make a run at it. We got into a little bit about just side conversations here as we wrapped up. Anthony Davis and his bilateral tendinopathy. I had no idea what that meant, but definitely it was the most dramatic way to ever say that someone was sore. I don't know how hurt he is, but he's been out and now he's on the trade block too. We also talked a little bit about some of our favorite shoes. It's definitely, again, brought up Butler's leanings and the way of Wade and Curry, who now is a free agent, which is interesting. We laughed about the Curry shoes because they have this, if no one's played in them, they actually, the soles of them they're made of the same things that they make diapers out of it, and they just make it more dense and put it on the bottom of the shoes, and it stops so hard. I still remember playing in a pickup game and running into someone because I tripped because the traction was too good, and the guy gave me the bro get off me. And he said he had face planted in the same shoes. So great grip, but be ready for those. And then we closed, wrapping up, one word in the Warriors this year. He said excellent, little Bill and Ted flavor, but he meant it and delivered it with Jared Truby humor. When I asked him to compare Steph to coffee, he didn't hesitate. He said green tip geisha from the mountains of Panama. Rare and distinct. Perfect balance of clarity, comfort, and brilliance. You can drink it 100 times and still be amazed every single time. That's the Warriors. That's Cat and Cloud. And that's anyone chasing mastery in their craft. So yeah, not the episode I planned, but I turned it into something. Conversation about taste, timing, and trust. About finding culture and fighting to protect it. If you made it this far, do yourself a favor, grab a bag of Cat and Cloud coffee. Watch some basketball. It's feast week after all, college or pros, it doesn't matter to me. And remember, whether it's roasting beans or running an offense, the art is in the blend.